When we talk about soil care and soil health methods with a focus on market gardening, one of the most important and most promising methods is applying mulch. So here we have two different mulch. It's the same material, the same basic material. It's hay from lucerne or alfalfa. On your left side, it's cut and loaded from the field, brought to the market garden, and we can use it as it is. On your right side, you see the same material which went through a straw mill. This is a PTO tractor-driven machinery that you can see here. And normally it's the tunnel is up there, and then you bring in the material, and there is a hammer mill inside, and it blows out the material here. So again, this needs a bit of energy, definitely, so that's the disadvantage of doing this. But on the other side, it creates a finer material which can be more easily absorbed or incorporated by the earthworms into the ground, and doesn't necessarily make problems in weeding and things like that. So we want to try to use this material instead of the rough material now for mulching. So we probably will need like a 2 centimeter or 1 inch layer on top of the surface on the soil. And we hope that the earthworms will, the anaic earthworms will incorporate it in the soil soon. Then we can maybe put another layer back later on. But what are the benefits of applying mulch? This is really the question. So mulch, and this is why it is so promising for especially for market gardening, but also in arable field. Now it's tried as a cut and carry method. Mulch provides a range of benefits for us, for the plants, and for the soil. So when we apply mulch on the ground, we protect the soil. So in nature, soil is always covered by organic layer, like if you think about the forest, for example. And this organic layer protects the soil against the sunlight, against erosion by wind and water. And it protects the soil also, and the soil can get more open. So the water infiltration rate under mulch is much higher. There is no method known that changes the soil characteristics so quickly. So if you apply mulch, for example, on a crusted soil, after 3-4 weeks, you can see that the crust is destroyed, the soil is open again. So after 3-4 weeks, you can already see differences in your soil on the surface. So what's another benefit? You suppress weed. When you apply mulch, then the weed seed cannot see the light, so it thinks it doesn't make sense to germinate. So then it also incorporates nutrients. So if you apply mulch, then the earthworms can bring it into the soil, convert it, mineralize it into plant available nutrients. So, and if you apply organic mulch, again, you sequester carbon through the activity of the earthworms. So this is really a method where you can have a range of different benefits from applying mulch. So therefore I think it's so important. It's easy to apply it in a market garden because you do it by hand, you just carry it with your wheelbarrow, you bring it out there, distribute it on the bed, which is easy to do. It's a lot of work, but then you save some workload with weeding. But it's also considered as an important method more and more in arable field farming. So here in Austria, organic farmers like potato growers, corn growers, maize growers, they incorporate mulch. They use the cut and carry method. So they have a field with lucerne, for example, where they cut the lucerne hay, transport it to the potato field, for example, and then they distribute it with a compost spreader. Still, It's a lot of logistics, it's a lot of fossil fuels included, but kind of makes sense in yield, in drought resistance, saving water. Also, that's another benefit. You reduce your evaporation and therefore you save a lot of water, which is really important also here in Austria, in our area. So you see, mulch is maybe one of the most important methods to consider if you think about soil care and soil health methods. Other methods, especially in the market gardens, are crop rotation, reduced tillage, no-till even to apply. Compost application is a very important method also. Or you can also consider, for example, broad forking could be a beneficial method where you loosen the soil a bit, but you don't turn it around, and a type of gentle way of reducing compaction in the soil. So you see, there is a lot of different methods that you can use. We just took one example out. Cover cropping is another one, for example, really important. But we just took one example out. I think the most promising, it's mulch. And if you think about mulch, you can use different kind of mulch, but then you have to consider also the carbon-nitrogen ratio of your material. So if you go for straw, for example, you have a material that has a wide carbon-nitrogen ratio, like 80:1, so there is not a lot of nitrogen involved. If you go for lucerne or alfalfa hay, or for grass clippings, for example, you have much more nitrogen involved in your material. And so therefore, that makes a difference. Something comes into my mind if you think about the raw material. If you think about grass clippings, there could be, depending on where you get it from, there could be some pesticides involved. And even if you think about lucerne, not so much in Europe, I think, but in North America, lucerne often is sprayed with a herbicide called, the agent is clopyralid, and this could create a kind of killer mulch for your plants because the pesticide residues is very persistent and could harm your crop, could harm your plant. So for example, tomatoes would be killed through the pesticide residues from alfalfa hay if the farmer who produced the alfalfa hay wanted to spray the thistle, for example. So be careful what your resource is. The best is to grow it yourself. Then you know what you have. If you can't grow it yourself, consider organic product, organic certified product, because then you do not have any pesticide residues in it. And if you do not have access to organic product, ask your provider, ask your source, what has been done with your what has been sprayed on your mulch material. Another type of composting, so now we have seen thermophilic composting, where the organic material is turned every few days, every week or every second week. You have seen a vermicomposting where the earthworms are in a continuous flow reactor, are fed with compost, and they produce the organic fertilizer, the biohumus, the earthworm castings. Here you see another type of composting, which is called the Johnson-Su bioreactor. Dr. Johnson and Dr. Su are two scientists who developed this method, and it's a method where you do not turn. So you generate your compost pile, which is in this form, and then it stays for 1 year. So you don't turn it, you never turn it. You put some pipes in there when you create it, and then later on, after 1 day, when the material has settled a bit, then you pull out the pipes, so you create a kind of chimney where so that makes sure that the oxygen is provided throughout the compost pile without the need to turn it for oxygen support. So what is the reason why this was created? The idea behind this is if you don't disturb the material, and what you do after 1 week, you also incorporate earthworms. So it's also a kind of vermicomposting facility. And the idea is that you do not disturb the ecosystems. You do not disturb the microbes in there working to create a high-level compost. And that makes it possible to create a high fungal biodiversity. So the more complex, the more diverse the fungi are in such a pile of compost, the better it is. Why is that necessary? Because most agricultural fields, most industrial fields have a lack of fungal biomass and fungal biodiversity. So both. There's too little fungi in the soil. And this is really important because the fungi, the fungal hyphae in the soil, they have a lot of functions. They can mobilize nutrients, they can store carbon, and they can have a lot of function in the ecosystem together with the plant. So they make the plant healthier. Just consider mycorrhizal activity, for example, which strongly support the plants in growth, in health, and so on. But also other fungi, saprophytic fungi that you can find in here, which live from dead organic material. So you're not creating fungal diseases here. That's really important to consider. You're creating a fungal biodiversity which supports the soil and supports soil health strongly. And what you do, because you would say, okay, what can you do with 2 cubic meter of compost? What you can do, again, like with vermicompost, you can use it in very small rates. So you can use it for seed coating. You can use it for spreading it in the seed reel or something like that. And this really helps the plant, helps the ecosystem, helps to regenerate soil, helps to restore soil health. So this is a very promising approach. And a lot of people try these methods now, and I think this could be a very big contribution to soil health globally, because you do not need a lot of technology, you do not need a compost turner, you do not need a compost sieve and everything else, so you can produce it with low technology, but with a high impact in soil health. It's important to keep it wet.